In World War II, Jeep-type vehicles became the backbone of armies, fast, reliable, and able to go where bigger vehicles couldn't. In this video, we list every World War II Jeep-type vehicle, nation by nation, starting off with United States. Willys MB, the iconic image of the American Jeep. It defined the general purpose vehicle, rugged, reliable, and incredibly adaptable. A true symbol of Allied mobility and ingenuity during the war. Up next, Ford GPW, nearly identical to the Willys MB. Ford built these using Willys blueprints. They ramped up production fast, ensuring the Allied forces had the massive volume they desperately needed for global conflict. Up next, Ford GP. This was one of the early proto-Jeeps. GP stood for Government Project, or possibly General Purpose. It featured that recognizable flat hood, but it was quickly phased out when the final MB design was standardized. Bantam BRC-40, the original pioneer. Bantam designed the first vehicle to meet the Army's stringent requirements. Though Willys ultimately won the major contract, Bantam still produced thousands of these robust little vehicles. Now this is the Willys MA, the direct ancestor to the MB. This was the initial Willys submission. It had a column gearshift and a simpler single-gauge cluster. Most MA models were sent straight overseas for testing and battlefield trials. Continuing with United Kingdom. Standard light utility, commonly nicknamed the Tilly, was Britain's closest equivalent to the Jeep in World War II. Like the Jeep, it was a compact, versatile vehicle used for transport, liaison, and light cargo duties across all fronts. Moving on to Germany. Volkswagen Kübelwagen, Germany's answer to the light utility vehicle. Extremely lightweight and simple, it utilized a rear-mounted, air-cooled engine. Superb off-road performance, especially valuable in the deep sands of North Africa. Volkswagen Schwimmwagen, the famous floating Volkswagen. This was an ingenious amphibious utility vehicle. It featured a screw propeller that simply folded down for water use. Truly versatile. A remarkable piece of German engineering. Stoer R200, a German heavy four-wheel drive utility car. It was part of the standard troop and equipment transport roster. It featured independent suspension on all four wheels. A solid but complex design for battlefield repair. Hawk 901, another powerful standardized German transport vehicle, known for its distinctive boxy and angular appearance. It served reliably throughout the conflict, primarily carrying officers and vital communications equipment. Next up, Japan. Kurogane Type 95. This was the primary Japanese light utility vehicle. It is often cited as the world's first mass-produced four-wheel drive vehicle. It had a distinct, motorcycle-like front fender design. Very rugged for Pacific Island hopping. Toyota AK-10, a Japanese utility car heavily influenced by the American Bantam design. It was produced in somewhat limited numbers. It clearly shows the efforts by Japanese industry to quickly emulate successful foreign designs. Continuing with France. WW2, a French light reconnaissance vehicle. It was distinctive due to its unique six-wheeled configuration. Produced before the 1940 fall of France, many were captured and immediately repurposed by the German army. WW15, a slightly heavier and larger French military utility vehicle compared to the V10, used mainly for towing small artillery pieces. This was another unique design quickly co-opted for service under the Axis banner after the occupation. Peugeot DMA, a standard French truck or van chassis quickly adapted for wartime utility use. Primarily used for local logistics, it was often seen carrying essential supplies rather than personnel. A simple, sturdy workhorse for the French military. Let's move on to Italy. SPA Viberti AS43, an Italian light armoured car, used extensively for reconnaissance and high-speed patrol duties in North Africa. Fast and relatively well armed for its class. It saw service under both Italian and later German commands. SPA TL37, an Italian light artillery tractor, distinguished by its four massive wheels and very high ground clearance. Designed specifically for hauling large guns across the rough, difficult terrain of the desert. Now let's look at Czechoslovakia. Tatra 57K, a Czech light utility car. It was essentially a robust military version of a successful civilian car line. Manufactured in Czechoslovakia after the nation was absorbed into the German war machine. Used often for liaison work, Praga AV, another reliable utility vehicle originating from Czechoslovakia. It was used extensively by the Axis for light transport duties. This vehicle represents the broader use of occupied nations' industrial output to supply the German war effort. Continuing with Canada, Chevrolet patterned light utility, an Australian and Commonwealth design. Built on a standardized GM platform, highly adaptable and relatively easy to maintain in harsh environments. These vehicles served extensively across the Pacific and Middle East theaters. And our last category is Soviet Union, GAZ-64, the Soviet Union's first indigenous Jeep equivalent, designed incredibly rapidly under wartime pressure. It suffered from a very narrow track width. This made it quite prone to tipping on uneven ground. GAZ-67, a significant improvement over the previous GAZ model. Soviet designers fixed the critical stability issues by greatly widening the wheel track. This became the standard Soviet utility vehicle for the latter half of the war. Up next, GAZ-67B, a further refinement of the reliable GAZ-67 chassis. Minor tweaks to the body and the engine improved overall performance and reliability. This version continued reliable service long after the war concluded.